Hey everybody, welcome back to round 40 of Inside the Clinch. Eric and Johnny back for another week of MMA action. Johnny, how you doing, brother? Good to be back with you.
I'm doing good. Episode number 40. It's insane to even say that. I feel like I'm losing track of all these episodes, but 40 episodes, that's insane, dude.
Yeah, we've been knocking these out week after week, so it's been growing before we know it. Our first 1 year anniversary is coming up in a couple of weeks, so we're almost there, man. It's been quite a ride.
Yeah, I'm sitting in the room where it all began. You and I in my basement started off right here, so it's nostalgic and it's just the beginning, man. Where it's been a good year. Gained a lot of gained a lot of new listeners. Got a lot of traction on our social medias, so it's been a good year, and next year is even going to be a better one. So looking forward to it, brother.
Yeah, man, we already got a bunch of great fighters on the show. We have a lot of new potential guests coming up. We've been doing some work behind the scenes. So over the next couple of weeks, couple of months, you're definitely going to get some more variety of fighters that we're going to be interviewing. So stay tuned, guys. We really appreciate all the support from all around the world that's tuning into us every week.
Yeah, we have a lot in store for you guys. This is just the beginning, as I said. There's many surprises that Eric and I have spoken about behind the scenes that can't wait to show you guys. So stay tuned, listen to us, follow us, and share it with your friends.
So John, let's get into this week's action. We're going to recap the past UFC Fight Night headlined by Anthony Smith versus Ryan Spann. We're going to touch on Yoel Romero's Bellator debut, and we're also going to give a couple of news topics as we like to do. But let's start off with the main card of this past UFC Fight Night. So to start off the main card in this Saturday's main event, we had Joaquin Buckley taking on Antonio Arroyo. Buckley he looked a lot more sharp. I noticed in this fight, his punches were precise, a little bit more power, I think, than I would have liked to see him throw. Like every punch that he was throwing, it looked like he was trying to knock out Arroyo, which, I mean, I get it. It's in a fight, but once you get to the higher level talent, I feel like that'll be a way for him to gas out sooner than he actually would like to. So I would like to see him calculate his power a little bit more, but I think his precision was definitely much improved, and he got a TKO in the third round. Very impressive. So Joaquin Buckley is starting to get his momentum back. I'm glad to see it.
Oh, honestly, I'll kind of have to disagree with you. I don't think he was very precise at all. As you said, he was swinging to get the knockout, which is his fighting style. But I thought that he was losing the fight. The one judge scored it 20-18 for 2 rounds for Arroyo, and the other two had it a tie. So if this fight went to decision, Joaquin Buckley would have lost the fight. And this is to a good fighter. Arroyo is a good fighter, but he's 0-3 in the UFC. This might be his ticket out the UFC. So I was expecting a little bit more from the KO last year's knockout winner, Joaquin Buckley. But I mean, he did what he had to do. He got that finish. But I think he has a lot more potential.
Look, I'm looking at the official total strikes and significant strikes right now per the UFC website. Buckley landed 45 total strikes out of 107 versus Antonio Arroyo's 30 strikes out of 57. And then significant strikes, Buckley had 41 out of 102 and Arroyo had 21 out of 46. So Buckley was more active. He did land more punches. I do agree that in parts of the fight, it did look like Arroyo was touching Buckley more, but I feel like Buckley was doing more of the damage when he was touching his opponent.
Oh yeah, I would have to agree with that. Buckley definitely has the strength advantage. He definitely has the knockout power, which we're not really accustomed to seeing in Arroyo. But I mean, I expect more from Buckley. He did what he had to do, as I said, but I don't know. This is not going to work out in the higher level of the division.
I agree. He's a young prospect, but if he wants to work his way up, he is going to have to be a bit more precise. And I guess he needs to be more calculated. I don't know if like we were saying last week, it could be some of the nerves just from the lack of experience. Like he is young, like we've said. And I do feel like there's a lot of pressure on this guy's shoulder coming off of that crazy highlight reel knockout. Because I feel like no matter what fight he's going into from now on, we're going to be referencing this crazy highlight knockout because, you know, it's the highlight of his career so far.
Yeah, I believe stress definitely has to play a role in this. But, you know, I'm happy for him because he lost to Chirico. And you know how fighters get knocked out after all the hype and they start slowly regressing. But I'm happy that this didn't happen to him. I don't think he looked great, but I'm happy he got the win and he's able to move forward. And I'm looking forward to seeing him improve in literally every single part of his fighting style.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Following that, we had Nate Maness versus Tony Gravely. This was a really exciting fight. And sorry, one thing I should have mentioned from the top, this card overall I thought was very exciting. Definitely not the biggest names, not the most recognizable names, but I did watch everything from the prelims all the way through the main card the next day. And this was a very exciting card, a lot of action, a lot of good matchups. But this fight, holy shit. So we had Tony Gravely putting the beats on Nate. I think he pronounced his last name, Nate Maness. Look, man, Tony was doing everything right. He was landing power. And like for these two bantamweights, the amount of power that you heard in these punches was just ridiculous. Like you would not think that this was a bantamweight class. Like you would think this was like middleweights or maybe even light heavyweights with the power they were hitting. But Tony almost got that TKO finish. Nate got saved by the bell literally as he was ground and pounding, trying to get the finish. The bell rang, so the ref split them up. And then halfway into the next round, Nate Maness pulled the upset and just knocked out Gravely himself. So what a fight, what a performance.
Yeah, people are talking about this fight as a potential comeback of the year for Nate Maness. But Tony Gravely, he looked outstanding in the first round. He was completely dominant. He knocked down Maness for the first time in his career, which was definitely very impressive. But Maness, what willpower he has to come back from that and get the victory in the second round. Very impressed with him, 3-0 in the UFC. Can't take any more beatings like that, but definitely a very impressive win.
Yeah, look, both guys were great contenders. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I heard on the broadcast, they said this fight fell through a little while back, but they made sure instead of to give the guys a replacement, they just moved the fight altogether. This was a very interesting matchup. I'm very interested in both guys going forward. Wasn't too familiar with them, but they definitely have my attention now, and I'm going to be watching them going forward. Following that, we had I know he's one of your favorites on the card. We had Armanza Tsarukyan versus Christos Giagos. Man, John, let's hear your thoughts. I know this fight got you really excited.
Yeah, Tsarukyan, I think he's one of the best people in the division, and he showed that on Saturday night. He did get taken down early in the round, but he was able to come back, get the TKO victory in the first round. Definitely a great prospect. Lost to Islam Makhachev in his UFC debut, and then won 4 straight after that. So he's not winning all these fights via knockout or in an impressive fashion. Aside from this one, this was a nice win for him. But he's not winning these fights by knockout or submission or anything like that. He's winning most of these fights by decision. But if you watch him fight, he's so technically good, and I could see him fighting pretty much anyone in the division and putting up a good fight, if not winning. So definitely, as you said, very high in the kid. I see a bright future for him, and looking forward to continue watching him progress through the division.
Yeah, so this was his first finish in the UFC, actually. And he came in at 2 minutes and 9 seconds in the very first round. Like you said, very dominant performance. And all of his fights are very dominant. He might not get the finish, but I feel like finishes just look good on paper. You know what I mean? If you sit down and watch the fight, like someone like Khabib, who went to decision often, he was one of the most dominant fighters. But if you look at it on record, it's like, oh, he had like half of his wins via decision. He must not be that good. But Sean Shelby actually came out from what Tarukian said, that Sean Shelby pretty much said you got to get a finish if you want to go to the next level of your career. And
Sean Shelby.
Yeah, I mean, look, he delivered, bro. He got it. I know there's a lot of speculation about him fighting Islam again. Islam is the only loss that he has on his record.
I don't want to see that yet.
That's what I was going to say. I don't want to see that yet. I feel like Islam is very close to the title shot, and I feel like Tarukian is going to be a very close second. You know what I mean? I think both prospects are on a very straight trajectory up, and I'd like to see that rematch for like some sort of title fight or something, at least a contender fight.
Listen, in regards to what you said about Sean Shelby, obviously everybody loves a knockout, a TKO victory, or submission, a stoppage, you know? But with fighters like Tarukian, with like Shevchenko, just watching them fight is just, you could see the level, the high IQ they have in mixed martial arts, which I personally love watching almost as much as I love the knockout. He's just that type of fighter. It's not his style to go and knock people out. He beats them by skillfully outclassing them, and that's basically what he did with Christos Giagos. Very high on him, as I said. Looking forward to him, and he did call out Dan Hooker after the fight. I know that's not going to happen anytime soon because Hooker's fighting Gaslam's twin, Nasrat Hakbarsat, but definitely a big prospect in the division. The division should be scared. This guy's tough, man.
Yeah, I feel like he's one of those guys that doesn't get a lot of attention, similar to Islam. Like he's not from this part of the world. His English isn't the best, so it doesn't do all
The
that
language
media.
barrier.
Yeah, but the dude's a fucking stud, man. I mean, he's a killer.
Yeah, and the reason I don't really want to see him fight Islam right now is because Tsarukyan, he's as good as he looks. He's still very young. He's still under 25, I believe, maybe 23, 24 years old. Islam is closer to 28. Has a lot more experience in the UFC and outside the UFC as well. So I want to see him develop a little bit more. And maybe in a few years when they're both going to be at the top of the division in a few years. So I feel like when they're both on top, I feel like that's the time to make the fight.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, they're both on that trajectory right now. So it's just a matter of time, in my opinion. I don't see too many people giving either of those guys a hard time right now until you get to the top of the rankings. So if all goes well, we'll see that fight hopefully in about a year or so, hopefully for the belt or something along those lines. But we're going to be watching.
Yeah, so he did call out Dan Hooker. And as I mentioned, Dan Hooker has a fight coming up. And Dan Hooker is currently ranked number 7 according to UFC rankings. I was looking through the rankings, and this is a fight that I haven't seen anywhere. But I was looking at maybe him fighting Tony Ferguson. What do you think about that?
Tarukian fighting Tony Ferguson?
Yeah, Tony Ferguson, as we all know, is like on a 25-fight losing streak. Former legend in division. He's still ranked number 5 in division, close to where Hooker is. So why not give him Tony Ferguson? See if he could overcome a test like that.
I think the fight would make great sense for Tsarukyan. I don't know how much sense it would make for Tony. This is a prospect coming up, and Tony is coming off of a crazy winning streak of his own when he didn't even get to fight for that title.
Those days are over.
Those days are over. But I think Tony
Ferguson is what's known as a gatekeeper now. That's what he's going to be, because now he's losing. He was once a legend, as you said, undefeated streak for a very long time, one of the best in the world for a very long time. But he's not the same anymore. Now he's what's known as a gatekeeper, and I feel like it's the fight to make.
I don't know about calling him a gatekeeper. Gatekeeper is someone who I feel like would have been Brunson before he turned blonde. I feel like that would have been a better guy to call a gatekeeper. For Tony Ferguson, I feel like now he's not going to, because he's pretty much 1 foot out the door, and by that I mean his age is catching up and he doesn't have that much time. He's only going to take fights that can guarantee him a step towards the title fight. You know what I mean? He's not just going to fight any contender, any prospect. When he was on that 12-fight winning streak, maybe that made sense because he's just trying to show that he's the best and he'll fight anyone, anytime, anywhere. But hey, look, it didn't pay off for him before, so I can understand if he would be more selective.
Yeah, this is me just imagining cool fights to make. Other fights that I thought would be really cool. I know they're both booked, but Fiziev versus Brad Riddell, they're fighting very soon. But what about Arman Tsarukyan versus one of them? I would love to see him fight Fiziev. That would be a beautiful fight. Fiziev, aka the Matrix Man, versus Tsarukyan. Two prospects, 2 high-level fighters. I would definitely love to see that sometime in the future as well.
Hell yeah, book that fight night main event right now. Like that can easily be a headliner and potentially fight of the year. Holy shit, I can't even imagine what kind of a high-paced technical fight that's going to be.
Yeah, this fight with Fiziev and Riddell, I believe that's also another
absolutely
fight of the year contender if somebody doesn't get knocked out. Two badasses. The division is looking amazing right now, man. So I'm very, very excited about that.
Same here, dude. So next up on that card, we had Ariana Lipsky. Lipsky taking on Mandy Baum. Ariana Lipsky won our award last year for female sub of the year. She had that vicious knee bar. But I gotta say, man, she's really like her nickname, I think, is so perfectly fitted to her. Her nickname is the Queen of Violence. And if you just watch that fight, she's a very pretty, very cute girl, but like the power that she has in those punches, those combinations that she's throwing, she's working the body, she's working the head, she's going for the takedown, she's grappling you, she's very active. I like her as a fighter a lot. She's definitely a very, very good contender that's also running to the top of the rankings right now. Love to see it. She outstruck her opponent 116 total strikes to 47. So overall, just from start to finish, an amazing performance.
Yeah, as you said, completely dominated her all 3 rounds. Baum, some people thought that she might be able to take Lipsky down. That was not the case. Over 4 on her takedowns. Baum was undefeated, 7-0 prior to this. Now 7-1. Lipsky's looking amazing, man, and as you said, cute, but also very fierce and someone to look out for in the division.
All right, then we had the co-main event, Ian Cutelaba taking on Devin Clark. This one had my jaw dropping. This fight was very interesting. I used to be a pretty big fan of Ian Cutelaba, but after seeing him get knocked the hell out by Ankalaev 2 times, I kind of jumped off.
He got knocked out once.
Yeah, that's fair. The first one wasn't really fair.
The first one was a fluke. The second, yeah, I mean, he was losing the first one too, but
it wasn't a knockout. I agree. That the first one was not a knockout.
It was a bad stoppage, but Magomed Ankalaev is a fucking beast. Like, I don't really take anything away from Cutelaba for losing to him, but yeah.
Yeah, my only point was I kind of jumped off a bit of the bandwagon at that point, but look, the guy's getting my respect back. He was ragdolling Clark for all 3 rounds. I believe it was like 8 or 9 takedowns that he got, one after the other. I mean, just a brutal dominant performance. The ground and pound was vicious. The punches, the elbows, he did some serious damage. And at one point in the fight, which I really want to ask you about, so I believe it was a knee to the head that caused Clark's teeth to literally break off the gum. I know you're a dental student. I was wondering if you can share some expertise on what the hell happened and how serious of damage that was to his face.
Yeah, so what people are saying is that the teeth came out, which is actually not accurate. So what happened was he actually broke his alveolar ridge, which is basically the bone that's holding your teeth like in place. So it kind of came out of its position, moving anteriorly, so moving forward. And he's now apparently in braces. They probably secured it, having the bone do its thing, come back together. I'm not really sure what his treatment plan is, but that was a devastating injury. But yeah, as you said, Ian Cutelaba, I mean, I'm not a fan of his. I'm not a fan of his either. I think his stare downs, his whole demeanor is kind of funny to me. It's kind of like cringy, awkward, but also kind of funny at the same time.
It's not cringy. I think it's a very intense. I think he's one of the most intense face-offs that I've ever seen. The guy
it's all an act. It's all a show that he does. And with the whole thing, I mean, as I said, I don't have anything against him, but he did look phenomenal in this fight, dominant throughout the entire fight. With the takedowns, I was really surprised about that. And this Clark guy he's not a nobody. He's a really good mixed martial arts himself, and this is a good win for Ian Cutelaba. He has those 2 losses, as you mentioned, to Magomed Ankalaev. He has a draw prior to that, so it's good to see him back in the win column.
Yeah, I'm curious to see where he goes next. Like we know, so this fight was at light heavyweight. I feel like the top 5 of light heavyweight is pretty stacked, but once you get out of the top 5, I feel like not the highest talent there. So I feel like if Cutelaba can keep up performing like he did this past weekend, I think a few more fights and he can see himself with a nice ranking on his name.
Yeah, he did call out Anthony Smith after the fight, and that was completely rejected by Smith because, I mean, give the dude a break. What is he going to gain fighting Ian Cutelaba? But I think a great fight for him to make right now is somebody that recently lost to Smith, which is Jimmy Crute. Around the same position in rankings.
Yeah,
I think it's a great fight. Jimmy Crute is a young kid, not really too experienced, but also very explosive. So I think that'll be a great fight, and I think it'll be a great test for Ian Cutelaba to see what he's really made of. Because these past few fights, it's kind of hard to determine what type of fighter he is.
Yes.
But those fights on Ankalaev, with that draw, it's kind of hard to say who Ian Cutelaba is at this point in his career. So I would definitely love to see him fight somebody like a Jimmy Crute to get more clarification.
Yeah, Jimmy Crute fight makes a lot of sense. My only concern there would be timing because, I mean, we saw he messed up his leg pretty bad in his last fight against Anthony Smith. So assuming that's healed up and he's ready to go, I think that's the perfect matchup to make in the division right now, actually. I think realistically, I don't think either guy can have a better matchup right now. That's a great idea. But, if time is going to hold back Ian, I don't think it's worth for him to wait around for that fight. I feel like there's a few other prospects that he can dance with in the meantime.
The light heavyweight, low key, is looking great right now. And I know a lot of people are talking about Bellator having the best light heavyweight in the world. I don't agree with that. I think they just have the most star power because they all basically came from the UFC where they got their names and came to Bellator when they're like out of their prime. But I think that UFC still has the best light heavyweight in the world, light heavyweight division in the world. And also people aren't giving it the credit that it deserves.
Look, like I said, the most of the talent is in that top 5 rankings. Once you get out of it, like I just said, it's not too much talent, but a lot of young talent, a lot of upcoming prospects. I feel like in a year, two max, I feel like the light heavyweight division is going to be completely different. If you kind of take a look at the history of the light heavyweight division, you had Jones reigning for a while, then you kind of had DC for a year. So it's like, and now after Jones, there's kind of like that flip flopping of who had the belt. So I feel like just the history of the light heavyweight division has been pretty stagnant at the top. So now there's a lot of things moving, a lot of things changing. So I feel like we're going to see a lot of interesting things in the next year or two out of that division.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at the rankings right now. You are right. Jan Blachowicz is the champion. Glover Teixeira is number 1. They're going to fight. Prochaska's number 2.
I love that guy. Prochaska, such a savage.
That's going to be the future champion. If you guys watch the movie Kickboxer, he really reminds me of Tom Poe. Have you ever watched that movie or no?
Yeah, we'll actually watch it with you, I think, a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it's a dude with a ponytail and he has something similar going on. And
the antenna.
Yeah, so he's Jiri's ranked number 2. Raychik is number 3. Smith, who we're going to get to in a second, is number 4. Thiago Santos number 5. Reyes number 6. Magomed and Kalai is number 7, and Volkan Ozdemir is number 8. So top heavy division for sure at the moment. But we also have Johnny Walker coming in. Ryan Spann, I know he lost this Saturday, but he's somewhere in the picture. Paul Craig's coming off a great win. So it's light heavyweight is people are underestimating it, man. And I feel like it's going to be one of the best divisions very, very soon. Yeah,
wait till the Paul Craigs, the Jamal Hills get back up in the division. Wait till those names get up. Give it another year, we're going to see a completely different light heavyweight division in the UFC.
Yeah, people are talking about Jon Jones leaving because apparently he was scared because, these last few fights I don't think he's scared, but these last few fights that he had were very close.
But look at what happened to those guys afterwards. Reyes went on a 3-fight losing streak. Smith went on a horrible streak after that. Santos hasn't been active.
Santos broke every freaking ligament in his knee. Smith is on a 3-fight. Smith is on a 3-fight winning streak right now. Jon Jones
post Jones, he didn't do too great.
While we're on the topic of Jon Jones, I think they need to make either the Stipe fight or they need to make the Ngannou fight. Why is Jon Jones just sitting around? I know Chael Sonnen always likes to talk about this shit, and it's a valid point. Why is Jon Jones not fighting?
I don't remember if I said this to you privately or on a older podcast, but the longer that we're going without Jon Jones, the less of a return I want to see. It's just so much time is passing, and it's not just him coming back; it's him coming back at much higher stakes. The Francis Ngannous, the Derek Lewis's, the people with the crazy knockout power, and so much bigger than anyone he's ever fought before. But the age, you know what I mean? I don't know. I feel like it's so much riskier the longer we wait to see Jon Jones back in there. It's almost like I want to see him back in there now, or I kind of just want to see him retire happily at the top.
Yeah, as much as we love Jon Jones, it's evident that he's not the same fighter as he used to be. I know sometimes you and I like to imagine that he is, but just looking at his past few fights, he's not the same Jon Jones, not the same dominant fighter that he once was. So I don't know how he's going to match him in heavyweight. I'd love to see it because I love watching Jon Jones do crazy things and shutting up the world, but I feel like he had too hard of a time with Dominic Reyes, and these heavyweights are just so strong. I'm very interested to see what his game plan would be. So make the fights happen, Dana White. Let's go.
All right, let's move on to the main event of this past Saturday on the UFC card. We had Anthony Smith putting on a clinic against Ryan Spann. I think the fight IQ of Smith really showed over here. The guy just had so much more experience. He was a lot more composed. He was picking his shots. I think it was just a great performance from Anthony Smith. Pretty much the perfect fight. Spann was swinging at him with everything he had, and Smith seemed like he was able to, calmly move out of the way when he needed to, kind of create the distance when he needed to, and he picked his shots and landed with power and precision every time. So very impressed with Anthony Smith.
As we said on our last podcast, this fight will be determined by what type of Anthony Smith shows up. And in this fight, Smith said that he was coming in heated. He was upset with the stuff that Spann was saying about him, which I personally don't really understand. But he looked amazing out there, outclassed him, and good job for him. I'm looking forward to seeing him get hopefully another title run very soon.
After the submission stoppage at 3:47 in the first round, The ref stepped in, and Anthony Smith, spur of emotions with everything going on, he started yelling to Ryan Spann, where's my ass whooping? Where's my ass whooping? Because, building up to this fight, Ryan Spann and everyone on social media is telling Anthony Smith he's going to get an ass whooping. So Smith got pissed. I know that they exchanged a few words to each other. Some people ran to the octagon to split them up. Herb Dean obviously allowed the two of them to shake it out, hug it out. And, then they exchanged some nice words to each other. I saw a lot of crap on the media about how it was uncalled for and how Smith should apologize and all that. Personally, I don't think Smith has anything to apologize for. They were just punching and kneeing each other for the last couple of minutes. I don't think it's that big of a deal if they kind of yell at each other for a bit. But I don't know. What do you think? I know it's out of character for Smith. He's obviously always very well composed and well mannered, but I don't know. I feel like this is a bigger deal to the media than it should be.
Yeah, we don't really see Anthony Smith cussing like that. And after the fight, all you hear is beep, 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 because they literally censored everything. I'm fine with him reacting the way he did. That's fine. It's a fighting sport. People are beating each other up in there. So I'm not really upset about that. But I don't know if you listened to his interview on Ariel Helwani, and he justified why he did that. And apparently he was upset that Spann was discrediting his journey, which I personally didn't understand. He was like, I don't care if Spann says like I suck or I'm bad at this, I'm bad at that or whatever, but he was insulting my journey, which I personally I don't get. Like, what are you talking about?
He kind of is a journeyman. He was a journeyman that kind of fixed his career up, fixed up his games, and made it back to the top. But if you look at his,
I don't think that's the real. I think he was pissed that he was basically discrediting him. I don't know about all that journey bullshit. Honestly, it's like, who cares?
Look, it's not a secret that Anthony Smith did have a bumpy start to his MMA career. He did have a decent number of losses. I think he was moving weight division, trying to figure out where he belongs. But like I said, he made the improvements he needed to make and made it back up to the top of the division. Fight IQ is like I said, the fight IQ is what really set the two apart in this fight, and it was very evident. So I don't know. I'm happy for Smith. I know he called out Rakic. That's a rematch he wants to get.
Not gonna get it.
He's not going to get it, but I mean, look, he said he only wants to fight people ranked above him. I don't think there's anyone above him that's available right now. So he's going to have to either wait for the rankings to shift around a little bit, or he's going to have to take someone that's ranked 1 or 2 spots below him.
Yeah, if I remember his record, I know that he has around 15 losses, but I know that a lot of those losses were earlier in his career. He's only 33 years old, and he has over 50 fights.
Yep.
So he's been fighting for a very long time, and he was fighting at a young age. So a lot of those fights were when he was very inexperienced. But with this Rakic thing, he calls out Rakic. Rakic accepts the fight via Twitter comments or whatever. But they fought a year ago. They fought less than a year ago, and Rakic beat him. I don't think the UFC is going to make the fight now. Maybe in the future if Smith gets one more fight. But I think what they're looking at right now is Smith fighting the winner of Johnny Walker and Thiago Santos, which is coming up very soon. So
that fight I like.
That's the next fight for him. I think Smith has a good chance against both of them. So let's see him get one more win, and then he's around somewhere in the title contention.
Yeah. All right, John, let's touch on Yoel Romero's fight at Bellator real quick, and then we'll move on to our predictions for this weekend's pay-per-view. So Yoel Romero, the Soldier of God, lost his Bellator debut to Phil Davis this past Saturday. I didn't watch the whole event. I just caught this one fight. Yoel Romero, man, I don't know. I feel like his last few fights, I feel like he's fighting like he doesn't care as much anymore. We saw when this fight ended, which I was surprised was 3 rounds. Yoel Romero seemed like he didn't even know that the fight was 3 rounds. He thought the fight was 5 rounds. He was like contesting to the referees, aren't there 2 more rounds? And the fight was over.
Yeah, actually?
Yeah, he was. And they were saying on the broadcast, like, how's Yoel Romero not know this? Because, all this stuff is in the contract. It's not like, hey, just show up to this building at this time to fight. Like, they agreed to all that shit. So he had apparently no idea that it was 5 rounds. When they were calling out the scores, one of the judges gave it to Romero. And, I mean, even he understood. He's like, no. I mean, it was weird, man. I don't know. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to think.
Listen, you know how much I love Romero, but he got outclassed. Phil Davis, I said this to you off air. Phil Davis looked bigger in there. He had broader shoulders. Phil Davis is accustomed to fighting at light heavyweight, where this is Yoel Romero's first fight at light heavyweight in a very long time. And also Yoel Romero's 44 years old. He looks like he's a little bit gun shy, and also he's very when he throws his punches, he's very sloppy with it. Like he's kind of like a Joaquin Buckley in a way. He's looking to throw all that force into getting that one knockout. He looked very sloppy. Not going to work against someone like Phil Davis, very, very experienced fighter. But Yoel Romero, I don't know. Like, I kind of want to be upset with him because I like him so much, but like he's 44 years old at the end of the day. I know people will say that, oh, he's probably not 44. They lost his records or whatever. The dude's 44 years old. I don't care what he looks like. He's 44 years old. And I mean, what more can you expect from him? Like, I'm not really too surprised. I was upset with the decision, but it is what it is, man. Good job to Phil Davis.
Look, like I said, maybe it's just me. The last couple of fights, and this is including his last couple of fights in the UFC. He just kind of, like, the way that he fights, it's like he doesn't really care. It's like he's kind of just there to perform and not necessarily fight. You know what I mean? He's kind of there to be in the lights and DD boxing and like all this, just like media stuff. And I don't know, his last couple of fights, I just feel like he's not giving it his all. Like I don't know if it's just something is different about Yoel Romero. I feel like the hunger isn't there. He did win some big lawsuit, winning like $20-something million like a couple of years ago. So obviously financially his situation is different than it was a couple of years ago. So, how much is his motivation and hunger there? I don't know, but Phil Davis, man, Phil Davis is the real deal. I mean, he's very well balanced. He outstruck Romero. He outgrappled Romero. He took him down when he wanted to. So Phil Davis is the real deal, and Bellator is very lucky to have him. I got to say that.
Yeah, people were weighing in the wrestling credentials for both fighters. So Romero is a silver medalist in, what was that, folk style wrestling. Yeah. Folk style wrestling, whereas Phil Davis was an NCAA champion in freestyle wrestling. And obviously, Yoel Romero has the better credentials. He's almost an Olympic champion, but he was, as you said, he was able to take down Yoel Romero whenever he wanted. And I feel like that's because Yoel Romero, he primarily focused on striking his opponents in his last, I don't know how many fights. Like we don't really see Yoel going in for the takedown anymore. So good job to Phil Davis. He did look good, but I don't think he's amazing or anything like that. I think he's just fighting older Yoel Romero. Maybe you have something there with his hunger. I don't know about that, but maybe that's a possibility. But give it up to Phil Davis, man. And I don't really know if I want to see Yoel Romero fight anymore. Like, what's the point? Like, we see this. Like, who's he going to fight? He's going to fight Anthony Rumble Johnson, who's currently sick right now. What other fights are there to make for now? Like, Yoel Romero, I was excited for him to be in the Bellator, but like after seeing that, like kind of ruined it all for me.
I agree, man. I mean, look, hopefully he has a couple. I think he had at least a 3-fight contract with Bellator. So hopefully we'll see at least, a couple more fights before he calls it quits. Bellator does have an interesting light heavyweight division. I would love to see him and Rumble run it at some point before.
I'd love to see him and Jake Paul run it. I want to see that fight.
Yeah. But look, again, if he's going to box the way that he boxed this past weekend against Phil Davis,
terrible.
He was kind of like swinging from back here and like, I don't know. I'm no striker, but even I can tell that striking was very sloppy. And
yeah, you could tell. I mean, like watching Yoel's past fights, like I don't think that he really looked like that. He looked a little bit more calculated in his past fights. This one, he was like swinging. I don't know where he was swinging at, but he was.
That's what I'm saying. It's like he almost doesn't care anymore. It's weird. It's something changed.
I think it's his age. It's his lack of activity, all that stuff, and maybe the money as well. Who knows? But very upset with what happened to Yoel Romero, but it is what it is, man.
It is what it is. All right, so John, this weekend coming up, we have Volkanovski versus Ortega. It's going to be UFC 266. The prelims are going to begin at 6 p.m. Eastern, and the pay-per-view card begins at 10 p.m. Eastern. We have Jonathan Pierce taking on Damn, this guy has like 4 names. Omar Antonio Morales Ferrer. Then we have Matthew Smelisberg taking on Martin Sano. Following that, we have Cody Brundage taking on Nick Maximov. And wrapping up the early prelims that are on UFC Fight Pass will be Uros Medic versus Jalen Turner. On the regular prelims, we have Roxanne Modafferi taking on Talia Santos, following Shamil Abdurakhmanov taking on Chris Dukakis. Then we get into some of the more recognizable names. We have Dan Hooker taking on Nasrat Hakparsat, as you mentioned earlier. Yes, sir. Like you mentioned earlier in the podcast, this is Gastelum 2.0. When I saw this guy fight initially, I literally thought that was Gastelum, and he somehow miraculously lost like 20 or 30 pounds. Just facial features, they literally look identical, similar frame.
Better looking than Gastelum though, for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. Better looking guy, much younger guy. But look, we have an interesting matchup here. Dan Hooker was not too long ago fighting for a #1 contender fight. He got knocked the hell out by Michael Chandler, someone I know you think very highly of. But Hooker had a bit of a situation with this fight. So as many of you may have seen throughout the week and the last couple of weeks, Dan Hooker had some visa issues. He was flying in from New Zealand, and I guess he was expecting to have all his paperwork done, but the timeline was getting close, and it was literally to the point where he wasn't sure if his fight was going to get canceled or not because he couldn't get a visa to fly into the States. The COVID situation in New Zealand is obviously different than it is here. So from what I understood, all their offices were closed, like all their government offices, so they weren't able to process the paperwork the way they normally would. Thankfully, a lot of social media engagement, everyone started reaching out on Twitter and like all different types of channels, and they were able to get the attention of the embassy or whoever's involved, and they ultimately got him his documents, and he arrived to the States. But look, anything like that on fight week is going to put you under a lot of stress. It's going to fatigue you one way or another. I'm not going to say that's an excuse for him to not perform well, but I'm just saying that's something I think we should be cognizant of going into this fight. He's coming in from, different time zones. So the jet lag on top of this stress and everything else going on, I feel like may be a factor, but I think it's going to be a great matchup in the lightweight division. What do you think?
My thoughts on this matchup is that I think that Dan Hooker is going to come back. He's going to prove the world wrong. He's going to get the knockout victory. Dan Hooker, people are forgetting about him. He's a beast. I know that he lost brutally to Michael Chandler, but that's Michael Chandler, one of the best in the world. I think that fuck all that jet lag, all that visa issues, like that's not going to affect him. I think he's going to come out and he's going to look amazing out there, and I think he's going to take out Kevin Gastelum's twin.
So we know Dan Hooker's been training with the Savages over at City Kickboxing, same gym as Adesanya and Alexander Volkanovski. So he's been training with some Savages, but I don't think everyone knows that Nasrat actually trains under Firas Zahabi, who is a great mental coach on top of just overall MMA coach. Something else to know for this fight, Nasrat has never gone the distance. Hooker, on the other hand, we've seen him go the distance twice before with Poirier and with Felder. He's obviously 1-1 going into 5-round fights, but look, the experience, I think Dan Hooker definitely has more experience. His pace, I think, is going to be a big factor, but Nasrat has that knockout power. I think if the fight ends early, I think we might see Dan Hooker get knocked out again. We do know that's possible. We've seen it recently. And whether or not Dan Hooker's chin is deteriorated or maybe, that was just a good punch by Chandler, we're going to have to see that. You know what I mean? Nasrat does have some very nice knockout power, and I would not be surprised if he gets the KO. But I think the later we go into this fight, if it goes to the decision, for sure, I think Dan Hooker will be able to get his hand raised. I think he's just more familiar and comfortable in the deep waters.
Yeah, I think if this fight ends up being a striking match, I think that Dan Hooker is more technically sound. I think that I would agree with you that if it goes to the later rounds, Dan Hooker is probably going to pick it up and pick him apart. But I wouldn't be surprised if he gets knocked out. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets knocked out again. He does have 10 losses under his resume. He's 20-10, so that's not the greatest of records. So he is prone to losing. So I wouldn't be surprised if he does. But I think that he's going to come out and put on a show this Saturday night.
So to wrap up the prelims, we are going to have Marlon Morice taking on Merab Valashvili. This is a super exciting matchup, in my opinion. I'm definitely going to be watching this. Who do you got?
I'm going to have to go with my boy Merab. Like, Merab from New York, Georgian. You know how much we love Georgia. I think the wrestling is going to be the difference in this fight. I feel like Merab is going to just keep taking him down until he gets that unanimous decision win.
So something to note, Marlon Morice a couple of years ago defeated Merab's teammate, Aljamain Sterling, who is currently the bantamweight champion.
Sterling's a bitch.
But look, this is an interesting matchup. I think stylistically, Merab should be able to win. He's a very, very dominant grappler, and he does have some good striking. So I think stylistically it should favor Merab. But Marlon Moraes has fought some great wrestlers in the past, and he's been able to not only perform well but get the knockout against those guys as well. I don't know. One thing when I was looking into this fight, one thing to notice that Merab basically never got finished. He never got knocked out, and he has one submission win, which is bullshit. That was actually my very first UFC fight ever. And dude, Merab for like literally 2 minutes, the last 2 minutes of the fight was holding on. He was being held in a guillotine choke. The dude literally turned purple for a minute and a half and was hanging in there, did not pass out. Basically, the ref fucked up and called it a submission like that. Merab passed out, which he never did. Long story short, Merab never really got finished. And I think the finish is going to be the way that Morice is going to have to win this fight. Like you said, if it goes to the decision.
Not going to happen.
What's not going to happen?
I don't think Morice is going to be able to finish him.
Look, I mean, it's going to be his only way to win because, like you said, I think if it goes to decision, I think Merab is going to be able to win on points. I think he's going to be able to out-grapple him, keep him against the cage, and ground and pound him, if not get a submission win.
Look, Merab has for what some people call like a boring fighting style, where he continuously goes in for the legs, hugging the legs, like as Conor McGregor likes to say. But it is effective, and I don't see Morice. No, not to discredit him, he's a great fighter, but I feel like Merab has looked so good in his past few fights, and if you look at him right now, he looks phenomenal. Like he looks so in shape. He looks mentally ready. I think he's the future of the division. So I'm gonna have to go Merab on this one. Fellow New Yorker, fighting out of our favorite MMA gym, Longo and Weidman Gym in Long Island, not too far from here. So shout out to them. But yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Merab, the Georgian man.
I agree, man. Let's go Merab. All right, so then we got the pay-per-view starting, which is going to be at 10 p.m. like we said. That's going to be started off with Jessica Andrade taking on Cynthia Calvillo. This is an interesting fight at women's flyweight. I think Andrade is by far the stronger and more experienced fighter. Cynthia Calvillo is a little bit taller. I believe like an inch or two taller, and she has an inch or two reach advantage. But Andrade is used to being the smaller girl in there. She has just insane power. We can see not only can she knock you out, she can break your ribs like she did to Caitlin Chukagian. I don't know. I like
slam you on the floor like she did to Rose Namajunas.
100%. I mean, look, I like Andrade a lot. Cynthia Calvillo, she's a good tough contender too. But to be honest, I'm not sure that she'll be able to endure the storm that's going to be Jessica Andrade.
Yeah, so both of these ladies are coming off of losses. Andrade is coming off a loss to Shevchenko. She also previously lost to Rose Namajunas in the rematch. Two high-level fighters, so I'm not going to discredit her there, especially with Shevchenko. Shevchenko was just an absolute monster. Nobody thought Andrade was going to win, besides some people that thought that her wrestling would be superior, which was completely ridiculous. But Calvillo is also coming off a loss to Chukagian. It's a nice fight. I would have to agree with you for the same reason. I think that Andrade is the stronger fighter. I think that she's going to be able to use her strength to her advantage and dominate Calvillo throughout the fight. So I'm going to have to go with Andrade on this one.
Following that fight, we have the heavyweight bout between Curtis Blades and Giarzinio Rosenstrike. My man Biggie Boy's back at it again, but man, is he going to have another tough test for him. Curtis Blades, phenomenal wrestler. We've seen Giarzinio have a big problem against wrestlers in his past couple of fights. I don't know how much you can do I don't know how much wrestling defense you can get over, the last few months that Giarzinio has been out, but I'm really hoping that he was able to at least practice some takedown defense or work on getting back up because stylistically, Curtis Blades, I think, is going to be able to get the win here. Unless we see something crazy like we saw with Derek Lewis versus Curtis Blades, where Giarzinio gets a knockout as Curtis Blades is coming in. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to say I feel like it's going to be a hard night for my boy Giarzinio.
Yeah, this here classic grappler versus striker match. Last time when Blades was fighting Lewis, I always said 100%. I would like to listen to myself say this, but I said that Blades is for sure going to win this fight. And he got knocked out. I was wrong. But I'm gonna go with him one more time. If he disappoints this time, I'm not gonna side with him anymore. But I think that the wrestling is gonna be the difference in this fight. Giarzinio Rosenstrike is a phenomenal striker, but as you said, he does have trouble with wrestlers. He's coming off a win to Sakai, and prior to that, he lost to Cyril Gane. So I feel like, as I said, it's gonna be a striker versus grappler match, and I feel like the grappler is gonna win in this case.
Look, if you think Giarzinio can pull it off, it's going to be a good bet. Currently, looking at the UFC website, he's a plus 245 underdog, so can make some nice money there.
Well, I personally don't think he's gonna win, but I think my boy Blaze is gonna win. But the people out listening out there, for sure, if you want to lose some money, then put your money on Rosenstruck. What can I tell you? All right, for the next fight, we have the people's main event, as Ariel Helwani likes to say. Apparently, Ariel Helwani invented that term, the people's main event. Yes, according to Ariel, he made that term 7 years ago for something completely ridiculous.
I feel like that term is like fucking like decades old.
Anyways, so we have this fight with Nick Diaz versus Robbie Lawler, two legends. They last fought in 2004. That's 17 years ago, right? That's 17 years ago. So it's been a long time. Nick Diaz did win the first fight via unanimous decision. He outclassed him. If you guys want to see the highlight, it's on our Instagram, Inside the Clinch MMA. But I don't really know who to pick in this fight because Robbie Lawler looking horrible as of late. Nick Diaz last fought almost 6 years ago with Anderson Silva. Don't really know how he's been looking ever since then. Has he been active? What has he been doing? I don't really know who to side with this, but if I have to pick one, I'm probably gonna have to go with Nick Diaz because I think that he's better in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I think that he's a better striker. The wrestling does have to go to Robbie Lawler, I would say, but if you put it all together, I think that Diaz wins either by submission or unanimous decision.
Look, first thing I want to say, matching these two guys up, best possible case scenario. I mean, Nick Diaz coming back after a huge layoff. No better guy to match him up with than someone like Robbie Lawler. These guys are around the same age. They're the same level of savagery, so you know you're going to get a good fight. It's not like one of those older guys coming back and he's being fed to the wolves of, you know, a young upcoming prospect. I really like that they match someone up with the same. They match them up with someone similar in class, I guess, so to say. Like you said, Robbie Lawler has not been performing well. He's 1-5, I believe, in his last 6 fights. Not looking great. But look, Nick Diaz, he's been out for a long time. There's a lot of questions, you know, how's he going to perform? We know Nate has been fighting and Nate has been training, and obviously we're sure that Nick is training to a degree too. But how intense has his training been? You know, how much is he improving? How is his conditioning now after all these years? And what has he been doing in his off time? You know what I mean? I think there have been rumors that Nick has been partying, and if that's the case, you know, how good is his chin going to hold up? How good is his conditioning going to be and his reaction time? So a lot of questions, obviously, just because we have not seen Nick Diaz in so long. But very ironic that the two have this rematch is exactly 209 months apart. 209 is the area code where the Diaz boys are from. If you don't know, now you know. So a lot of nostalgia in this fight, a lot of I guess irony in this fight. I'm excited for this, man.
Yeah, I'm happy the UFC put on a fight like this. Two fighters that are way out of their prime. This fight kind of belongs in Bellator, if I could be frank with you. But something about Nick Diaz. Look, his last fight was with Anderson Silva, which was a no contest. And that was in 2015. And prior to that, he fought George St. Pierre, where he lost. How did he lose? He lost via unanimous decision. And prior to that, he lost to Carlos Condit, who recently retired. Shout out to him. But before then, he was on an 11-fight win streak. And I know this was so many years ago, but I think that Nick Diaz is the better Diaz brother, better mixed martial artist. Definitely not the same as he used to be. It's like one of those fights, like it's kind of in a way like they put on a thriller or something like that. Like it's a fight that we want to see. It's not, obviously they're not the best fighters in the world, but like just for the nostalgia of it. Yeah, it's definitely great that they're putting on this fight.
Look, for Nick's sake, I hope that he wins just so that we can hope to see him back for a few more fights. But, you know, if that happens, that means Lawler's going to take another loss. It's going to be 5 in a row. Look, man, I love Robbie Lawler. Definitely don't want to see him get hurt. But like I said, this matching him up with someone like Nick Diaz is perfect. But I don't know. I just don't want to see Robbie Lawler get released and then go to like a Bellator or PFL and, you know, kind of continue to lose. Yeah, like, look, Robbie's one of those guys I was watching literally ever since I was a kid. You know what I mean? When he still had hair. He's just been a crazy fuck that I've been watching literally all my life. And I just respect the guy a whole lot for not only what he's done, but I guess what he's still doing. These are two future Hall of Famers for sure, Nick Diaz and Robbie Lawler. So just like I said, this is a phenomenal fight to make, and I'm very happy that this is the fight that the UFC's decided for Nick's comeback.
Yeah, two things that I want to mention. Number one, so for those of you that don't know, Robbie Lawler has 28 wins. Of those 28 wins, he has 20 knockouts, either knockouts or TKO victories. So, I mean, I know that wasn't recent, but he's a beast. And one thing that we forgot to mention is that this fight is going to be at middleweight as opposed to welterweight, where it was originally planned. And this was because Nick Diaz is apparently having weight cutting issues. So Robbie Lawler agreed to have it at middleweight, which is going to be interesting. I don't know who's that going to favor. I would assume that's going to favor Nick, but nevertheless, exciting fight, people's main event. Should be a good one.
Yeah, and that news just came out, I believe, earlier today or yesterday. So, breaking the news that there is a last-minute weight class change in this fight. So, hopefully, it doesn't make too much of a difference. There is enough time for if there was a drastic weight cut for Robbie Lawler to kind of balance out, but we'll see how that goes.
So the next fight, Eric, Shevchenko versus Murphy. Do you want to just skip that because we know how that's going to end up?
I mean, look, we should just give it a little bit of attention. You and I have been talking about this for the last couple of weeks. Realistically, what could Lauren Murphy do to Valentina Shevchenko? I don't see anything. I feel like Lauren Murphy might be Valentina's easiest defense. And I almost feel like an asshole saying that, but I feel like
I wouldn't say all that. But
I mean, look, over Valentina's last. All right, let me pull it up right now. One sec.
Yeah, while you pull it up, I know I'm a little mean to Murphy, but she was an Invicta champion. She's on a 5-fight winning streak right now. She has been looking good as of late, so I personally don't see her winning at all unless something like Shevchenko pulls Conor McGregor and destroys her leg or something like that. I really don't see Lauren Murphy doing anything. But okay, yeah, let's see what happens, man.
So this is Valentina's last few title defenses. So Jessica Andrade, I believe, is better than her. Jennifer Maia, I guess you can argue. I would say Maia might be a little bit better than her. Chukagan, Carmouche, Jessica Ai, Joanna, Priscilla Cochera. I guess
they're all around the same. They're the same.
I guess. I don't know.
She's just one of those people that are here, just destroy this girl and continue moving forward.
Look, Lauren Murphy, I'm not just going to talk badly of her. She did improve a lot over the last, I think, 3 or 4 fights that she's been on a streak on. But I just don't. Yeah. She's not going to outstrike Shevchenko. She's not going to outgrapple her. She's not going to submit her. She's not going to outpace her. She's not going to take her to deep waters. I just don't see any scenario other than a fluke of Lauren Murphy winning.
Yeah, and the odds right now minus 1,300 Shevchenko, plus 730 Murphy. So if you're feeling confident about Murphy, I mean, go for it, but I think this is going to be an easy one for Valentina Shevchenko, who's currently 7-0 at flyweight since she moved down. She has those 2 losses to Amanda Nunes, but one of the best mixed martial artists in the world, male or female. I know that people say that all the time, and I'm going to say it right now again because it is true. Valentina Shevchenko is a specimen when it comes to mixed martial arts. She's well-rounded in every single department, and I think she's going to put on an absolute clinic. And I'm looking forward to seeing a KO highlight reel, man. Hopefully she'll give us one of those, that leg kick finish that she has last year. Something like that would be awesome.
Dude, she is low-key a KGB spy, man. I swear to God. She just knows how to do it all. But John, let's move on to the main event of the evening this Saturday. We have the featherweight title on the line. Alexander Volkanovski fighting Brian Ortega. This is a very, very exciting fight. 2 very, very high-level featherweights. You can argue some of the best featherweights that the division has ever seen outside of Max Holloway and Jose Aldo, perhaps. How do you see this fight going?
I think I'm going to have to side with Ortega on this one. He's
really?
I take that completely back. I was just reading some of my notes over here. I'm going to have to go with Volkanovski, who's currently 9-0 in the UFC. Last 2 wins against Max. I know some people think it's controversial. I think that he beat Max both times, as much as I do love Max. Ortega, this is his first fight. He fought 1 time in the past 3 years, beating Korean Zombie. There's maybe one area where Ortega is better than Volkanovski, and that might be Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But I feel like Volkanovski is not going to get submitted. Look at him. He's built like a freaking, I don't know. He's built like a person that doesn't get submitted. So I'm gonna have to go with Volkanovski. I think he's the better striker. I think he's pretty much better everywhere, stronger, more precise, more experience, more everything. So I'm gonna have to go with Alexander Volkanovski on this one.
Better, faster, stronger. So look, I don't know if you ask me, if the Max Holloway versus Brian Ortega fight never happened, I think I would lean towards Ortega. But I don't know, something about that fight. It's not that I started thinking low and like started thinking badly of Brian Ortega, but there's obviously levels to the game. Like we saw how closely matched Volkanovski and Max Holloway were for two fights. Both of those fights were literally like it's literally a flip of a coin who won those fights. But Brian Ortega, he couldn't really last with Max Holloway. And obviously styles make fights, and Volkanovski's style is nothing like Holloway's. But I don't know. I feel like Volkanovski is just very, very well-rounded. He's a bit small for the division, but the dude used to be 350 pounds. The guy is now fighting at 135. So, I mean, just the body transformation there alone, like, is insane. The guy is not even that tall for him to be packing on that much weight in the first place. He's a phenomenal striker. He's a great grappler. I agree that Ortega is better jiu-jitsu, but I feel like the wrestling grappling, I feel like Volkanovski might be a little just because I feel like the strength is a big factor there.
Definitely a better grappler, 100%.
Look, I think I'm going to have to lean towards Volkanovski, but Ortega, look, Ortega's a great prospect. He's a great contender, and I definitely think he's going to be a champ one day. He's still very young. I'm also mad at Brian Ortega for stealing Tracy Cortez away from us because she is probably the most beautiful MMA fighter, but that's besides the point. But yeah, man, I think I'm going to I think I'm going for Volkanovski for this one.
I'm going to have to go with Volkanovski as well. And if you want to make some money, Volkanovski is only a minus 155. I think this is easy money, Volkanovski. Like, I don't really see any way that Ortega takes it. And you mentioned the fight with Ortega and Max, and you said that you kind of lost respect for him or whatever you said. I think that what happened in that fight is that Ortega was just exposed to the world in areas that he lacks. Max Holloway completely outclassed him. And we saw that he's not a great striker in that fight. Maybe he had an off night. I don't know. But
I mean, look, we have to mention that on that night, Brian Ortega broke both of his hands. So obviously he was losing the fight from
broke
the start.
All his hands, broke this, tore ACL before fighting. Yeah, all that. I don't care.
No, I mean, look, tore ACL before fighting is different than breaking both of your hands during the fight. That's a completely different excuse. All I'm saying is that what Ortega said.
You break your hand in the fight, you have to become a punching bag. Because that's what he became in that fight, a literal punching bag.
What he said was that it was hurting his hands to hold his hands up and block Max's punches. Like, it was literally hurting his hands. And he said that Max's punches weren't really hurting his face. So instead of, hurting his hands worse, he said he was just absorbing the shots, and he didn't feel like he was going to get knocked out, which he didn't. But the guy that night, he took way too much damage.
Dare I say Volkanovski hits harder than Max Holloway?
I think so, 100%. Max will hit you more, but Volkanovski will definitely hit you harder.
I think that Volkanovski is a former wrestler, so I mean, he's definitely a better grappler. He's built more like a wrestler. As I said, his anatomy, like, this makes him a lot less susceptible to being choked out. Maybe he could get armbarred, but I really don't think that's going to happen because he is stronger in every single way. So, I mean, I love Ortega. I hope he figures it out somehow. But I think Volkanovski's Volkanovski easy money on this fight.
Yeah, man. So that's going to be, once again, the early prelims are starting at 6 p.m. Eastern this Saturday, and the main card is going to be at 10 p.m. John, let's just touch on one bit of news before we wrap up this segment. Dillon Danis got arrested in New Jersey earlier this week. From what I read online, the cops were called after he created a disturbance at a bar in New Jersey. Footage has come out of him being first choked out by a cop. I don't know if you saw it, but he's basically in a rear naked choke. Oh my God, dude, it's hilarious. He's in a rear naked choke by some cop. And, first he's giving up the thumbs up. And then like a minute later, you see him tapping and like the guy's not letting go. And he's like tapping again and like holding his thumbs up. And then they kind of get, like, I guess Dillon Danis kind of tried to get out of it, still being held by the cop, and he's eventually escorted into the car. I think the funniest part is that Dillon Danis is still wearing his leg brace on the outside of his jeans. It's been, look, I know he had surgery and he had some kind of reconstructive, whatever the hell he had, but I feel like the amount of shit that he's talking and everything, like he's still walking around in public in a leg brace. Like, what's good with you, Dillon Danis? Dead ace.
I don't really have any comments to say about this. First of all, Dillon Danis is a complete loser. Also, I didn't really see exactly what happened. I wasn't prepared to talk about this, but I'll look into it after this recording for sure. But I mean, I don't wish anything ill towards Dillon Danis, although he is a douchebag. But I mean, it is what it is, man. Like, what else do you expect from him?
Not much, man. I don't respect the guy too much, but it's on character, I would say, for someone like Dillon Danis.
I think it's time for Jake Paul to be the Dillon Danis.
Guys, if you want more news and updates on the regular, be sure to follow our Instagram. That's where we are the most active throughout the week. We posted a couple of videos of Canelo and Caleb Plant getting into a scuffle at the press conference. So be sure to check out that video. We also posted a video of both guys' reactions as to what happened. So be sure to check us out on Instagram. We are Inside the Clinch MMA. On Twitter, we are ITC MMA Podcast. And on Facebook and YouTube, we are Inside the Clinch MMA. Thank you guys. Catch you next week.